We are the Equifax data breach team. I'm Zach, this is Andre, this is Ryan, this is Danielle, and that's Abby. So the Equifax data breach, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen as far as your American security goes? Well, it's one of the biggest credit reporting companies to get breached. And as you can read, one of the nation's largest credit reporting companies. They're the company you're required to have good credit for if you want to get a credit card, if you want to rent a place, if you want to get a car. Pretty much you want to do anything. And they had the largest data breach in history. The worst part about this, they knew about it 2 months beforehand that this could possibly happen, and they didn't do anything. And it raised that risk of identity theft for over 14 million Americans. And it's personal information, your name, your social security number, your birth dates, addresses, driver's license numbers. All of these things which could essentially allow someone else anywhere in the world to be you, to use your credit, to steal your things, to basically ruin your life. So, for our crisis communication team, we have Danielle, who is the VP of Communications. She would act as the team lead. She'd gather the crisis team, so us. She would lead the team briefings. She would ensure all necessary opinions are shared at the meetings. She would enact an action plan to be decided upon by the team. She would provide updates to team members as things move forward, and she calls for additional meetings if needed. And then we have Ryan as the media spokesperson. He is the primary representative of the company. He will also coordinate with TV outlets, answer any questions on behalf of the company, and request briefings from everybody involved in the crisis communication team, and then some. Then we have Abby, who is the data analytics department manager, who is the watchdog of the crisis team. She will provide updates on reports gathered from internal, IT, security, and HR departments. She will monitor all data. She will analyze data and reports as they come forward and to her, and she will investigate any pertinent data related to the breach or the team in general. And then myself, I am the social media coordinator. I am the online voice of the company. I evaluate the company's online image and presence. I create a point of view consistent with the spokesperson's TV appearances in order to have continuity across the board. And I send out messages, updates, and news to all related personnel and any official sites or any type of media that relies on updates from us. And then we have Andre, who is the media and PR liaison. He is in charge of full spectrum coverage of all news media outlets, including Facebook or Twitter or even CNN.com or Yahoo. He will delegate research and monitor any teams involved in solving the current crisis. He will evaluate options for responses as things move along. It's his job to come up with better responses to the evolving situation. He will provide briefings to the spokesperson so that Ryan, when he goes out on stage, has the ability to say the right thing at the right time to keep the company image. He will direct media inquiries to correct personnel, so that way the media can have their question answered by the right person in charge of the right things. And he will respond to inquiries by any partners, such as the board of directors, any shareholders, or anybody else that may be involved in the company as a whole.
So I will now talk about some of the key events in this crisis. First, on March 8th, 2017, the Department of Homeland Security first informed Equifax of the Apache Struts software vulnerability, as well as many other companies that were using the same software. On March 15th, Equifax's Information Security Department ran scans that should have identified the vulnerable systems, but did not. It was not until July 29th that Equifax's Security Department observed the suspicious activity and attempted to block the traffic, but it was too late. Hackers gained unauthorized access to the private system from mid-May to July. The compromised data included their names, addresses, social security numbers, and birthdays of over 143 million Americans. They still do not know where this information is or who has it, and are, of course, unable to get it back. On August 2nd, 3 Equifax executives sell company stock worth of $2 million and later claimed they did not know of the intrusion at this time. The stock drastically declined after the breach. A whole month later, on September 7th, Equifax alerted the public of the intrusion through a press release and provided a website for consumers to check and see if they were affected. So they created a separate website, separate from Equifax.com. Consumers raced to find out if their information was compromised and criticized the site as the arbitration language in the terms of service was confusing and could cause them to give up their ability to sue. Equifax quickly responded just a few days later to these concerns and reassured the consumers that the terms of service was just a mistake and it will not apply to those that were affected by the breach. So the CEO, Richard Smith, retired suddenly, just days after the CIO and CSO stepped down from the company. On October 3rd, they identified 2.5 million more people to the list of affected consumers. Then, one of these executives that sold the stock was charged with insider trading after dumping $1 million in stocks before the breach was announced. It was not until March 18th that the permanent new CEO would become the new Chief Executive Officer. So what was done for consumers in response to the breach? So Equifax noted consumers by mail and also provided a website to help consumers determine if they were impacted by the breach, as well as to provide them with updates with new information. So they offered security freezing for free for months to block access to consumers' credit unless they have given permission. This also prevents creditors from accessing their credit. They offered Trusted ID Premier, which is a credit monitoring and lock service, free for 1 whole year. This would provide consumers with copies of their Equifax credit report, up to $1 million in the identity theft insurance that would help pay for certain out-of-pocket expenses in the event that the consumer is a victim of identity theft as a result of the breach. They provided credit file monitoring and automated alerts of key changes to your Equifax credit files, and a credit report lock, which allows you to prevent access to your Equifax credit report by third parties with certain exceptions, but in order for this to work, the consumers could not have their credit frozen.
All right, and I'm going to go over a few of the company communications that were put out during this time. And September 7th, 2017, the CEO put out a public statement addressing the incident on YouTube. Again, this was way later than when they initially found out about the initial breach. What he said was he addressed the issue, he tried to assure consumers that it was being taken care of, but overall it fell short of what was actually needed to address the actual concerns of their consumers. On September 8th, 2017, the Equifax social media department put out a tweet that said "Happy Friday," which was extremely tone deaf in the middle of this whole situation. It really didn't assure the consumers that they were on top of what was going on if even the social media department was putting out something so blatantly out of touch with what was going on internally. September 8th, 2017, the same day, there was an update for consumers put out on the website. This was put out on one page on the website that provided all the updates on a single space, which in itself was a good idea, but because of the late response and the lack of actual information provided, this also fell short of what consumers wanted. September 11th, 2018, a progress update again was put out on the credit freeze arbitration language. This addressed the website that was being offered for consumers to sign up for, and the concerns that were brought up with them waiving their legal rights to pursue action against Equifax. And this tried to assure consumers that that was just a mistake, even though the way it read was most likely pretty intentional. September 13th, 2017, there was another progress update put out, and they just explained how the web app was vulnerable for cybersecurity attacks. Again, this came after a lot of initial concern, and at this point, when they're still addressing issues that were coming up, it made consumers feel like they're still not trustworthy if the ongoing situation is still becoming more problematic. September 14, 2017, Equifax added additional information on the credit freezing options, and again, this just was as best as they could do, providing as much information and updates they could for the consumers. September 27, 2017, the Wall Street Journal, on behalf of Equifax, put out an "I'm sorry" article, which I think was a way for them to reach out aside from their website and not providing an update, but rather putting out a public statement through the Wall Street Journal. This was a good move in that they were expanding their reach and notifying the public of what was actually occurring so that people didn't have to go straight to the website to find out. It was taking another step in making the effort on their side to reach out to consumers. Now, on March 1st, 2018, Equifax put out a statement identifying another 2.4 million consumers who were impacted, which, as all the consumers who were dealing with this found out how much more serious the issue was, caused even more problems for Equifax. So some missteps Equifax had during this whole process was they could have prevented this breach altogether. The fact that their systems were hacked in the first place shows that their internal security practices were lacking. The fact that they deal with so much private personal information for their consumers means that they should have set up much more of a safe, secure network internally so that this wouldn't occur in the first place. Secondly, they just waited a whole month before they decided to tell consumers that they found out about it. So if they were more upfront initially, they might have been able to regain some of the trust that was lost during this whole process. And then their arbitration language on credit-free sign-up, that really worried consumers when they found out that it meant that they were going to waive their legal right to pursue action against Equifax, and that caused even more issues down the road. And then bugs on the website and websites that were faking URLs to get consumers to log into a hacked website rather than the actual website caused even more issues. I think Equifax could have definitely anticipated this based on the initial attack and seeing that hackers were targeting them so deeply. All right, we'll go up to our updated crisis communication plan that we came up with.
So for our 5 proposed key messages, first we came up with a public message from the CEO of Equifax. This message would say, as many of you know, today we announced a cybersecurity breach that has impacted all of those who trusted us as a company to protect your personal information. We are reaching out to communicate all of the facts so that you understand the precautions we are taking to ensure your information is safe and stays that way. On July 29th, unauthorized hackers entered into our system, stealing the personal information of nearly 143 million people in the US and Canada. We have hired a lead cybersecurity firm in charge of detailed forensics review of what happened and to prevent this from happening again. We have been in continuous contact with law enforcement to ensure that this matter is dealt with in the proper manner. We offer our sincerest apologies to everyone affected, as this devastating event has tremendously impacted trust not only with our customers but within our company. The threats of these security breaches are becoming more and more of an issue in this technological world that we live in, and we vow to take every precaution necessary in light of these events. We are offering a free comprehensive package of identity theft protection and credit file monitoring for every consumer. We hope that Equifax will not be defined by this breach, but the measures we are taking to fix it and can gain public trust. This is our commitment to you. Thank you for your time. Our next proposed key message is a press release from Equifax to the public, and this press release would say, on July 29th, Equifax suffered from a major data breach which impacted 143 million customers. This breach started in mid-May and continued through July till our company's cybersecurity team put a stop to the issue. We are in direct contact with everyone involved in the situation. We are in full cooperation with law enforcement. If you are unaware of whether or not your information has been breached, we encourage you to contact our website, www.equifaxsecurity2017.com, where you will be able to fill out your information and will be able to find out the steps necessary to fix this. We motivate you to also sign up for our free identity theft protection and credit file monitoring. The government is also involved in working on allowing customers to freely freeze and unfreeze their credit files. Thank you for your time and cooperation. Equifax is happy to answer any questions via phone as well. Our next key message would be a tweet that Equifax would put out. This tweet would say that Equifax is aware of the public outrage. We are open to communication about how to fix this devastating issue. Please visit www.equifaxsecurity2017.com for further information on updates, and we again are deeply sorry. Our next proposed message would be details on the cybersecurity incident on the website. So it would state that throughout this event, our company's cybersecurity team is now announcing today that on September 7th, 2017, Equifax is making necessary precautions to fix this issue. Our Chief Information Officer and Security Officer have been appointed by new employees, and our company will be continuing to comply with the FBI regarding this investigation. With the suspicious trafficking noticed by our security team, which started the investigation, security teams will continue monitoring the network, responding to suspicious activity. With this, the company is implementing long-term security improvement to ensure this never happens again. The hackers were able to identify the vulnerability in our APAC struts and open source application that the company was aware of and took precautions to patch. Equifax is fully committed to helping those who were impacted by this event, and Equifax has dealt with the website now, which consumers are able to identify if they were affected by the breach, as well as credit monitoring file. The company call center is always open to offer any assistance as well with this matter, and our company has continuously used innovative technology which has shaped our business into an insightful and trustworthy site that provides knowledge to our companies and to make the right decision on anything personal. Our headquarters is located in Atlanta, Georgia, and operated in 24 other countries around the world, including North America, South America, Europe, etc., and nearly 900,000 employees. For more information, please visit our site. And our final would be just an important consumer information page. And as a result of the cybersecurity incident, Equifax will be notifying those affected by US Postal. For our internal communications procedure, as a result of the event, we created a memo which would be sent out from our CEO. It would say that, dear employees, I'm writing you today in regards to this major data breach at Equifax, which has exposed nearly 143 million Americans' sensitive personal information and credit report. This breach has been occurring since May and continued in the month of July. Names, social security numbers, etc. were stolen by these hackers. We are contacting you and the public on the steps necessary to protect your information. Equifax website now offers our security system to find out whether your information was exposed. The link provided below. You will fill out your last name, the 6 digits of your social security number. Those affected by the breach will now be offered a free credit monitoring file. You will be able to check your credit report freely, and you'll be able to freeze your credit report at any time. We would also offer monitoring your personal bank account and file taxes early. Thank you for listening, and that would be from the CEO.
So here's our social media policy. When you're creating an ideal social media policy, you want to make sure that the use of social media is within the realm of relevant laws and regulations. So in our social media policy, we decided to focus on the following: fair use and the prevention of defamation. An ideal social media policy should clearly contain information regarding how social media is used, who uses social media, and how you should conduct yourself on social media, as well as accessibility. In our particular social media policy, we want to ensure that employees have their free speech rights, but we also want to ensure that confidentiality is the core of our social media policy. Given that our company had a breach earlier within, given that our company has had a breach, we're more sensitive with our information as far as how we want to ensure that others use our information in the media. So we want to make sure that monitoring serves its purpose by controlling specific content. We want to control what we post as employees, make sure that it's in the company's best interest, and make sure that it doesn't contain false or biased information. Ideally, we want to create a valid code of conduct. When using social media, it's important that employees use social media in a way that will empower employees. In turn, this will change the culture and allow our company to reap the benefits of any social media use from that point forward. So here's our media policy. So our media policy was created to maximize opportunities in relation to the press. We want to make sure that we feel confident and are well prepared given any interaction with the press. So we can develop strategies as far as interviews or conferences. We want to review topics and angles, make sure that it's within the best interest of the company and we convey our key messages with clarity and impactfulness. Our intent is to protect the interests of our consumers, as well as promote competition. By creating this social media policy, we establish a core system of standards, and in our media policy, we kind of went with a risk and reward approach to ensure that everyone involved is happy, including our stakeholders.
All right. In conclusion, Equifax definitely waited way too long before they disclosed the situation to their customers, and any claim that they didn't know about it beforehand was undercut by the executives putting out their shares of stock as insider trading before even letting the other people in the company know. The executive who got investigated by the FBI definitely should have sent the information down the ladder so that all this information could have been known by the public much earlier. And then the remediation efforts that they tried to put out definitely backfired. The fact that apparently their social media team wasn't in cohesive communication with the rest of the company and putting out the Happy Friday tweet, the fact that their arbitration language in their website gave a waiving of legal rights of the consumers, and the fact that most of their updates were either falling short of what the customers wanted to hear, and also the customers had to reach out to find out about it. What we would recommend that Equifax do is that they should install more accurate assessment tools and applications internally, so that any sort of breach or any sort of suspicious activity inside the company would be noticed more early. And then there would have to be an information security team that would be constantly working with the rest of the company to address any issues that came up, so that there would not be such a delay that occurred in real life. And then we would also recommend that they put out a website for consumers to be able to log in and check their information whenever they need to, so that they can always check to make sure that what they've given to the company is safe and protected the way they would expect to be when trusting a company that's handling such important information. With this event, we know that Equifax was definitely overwhelmed with what was happening. We think if they had a more clear crisis communication plan in the start, they could have gotten on top of it and had less of a public image detriment overall. And with our recommendations, we think they would have had a much better time dealing with this sort of event and any future events. Thank you. Yeah, we're good. That was 24 minutes.
Should hit end record.
We'll cut it. I'll send it to myself. I can cut it before we
I don't either. Is it done? Is it still no?
That's good.
Okay.
It's flashing, please wait.
Oh my gosh. This thing's just really slow.
Okay.
Are we sure that I was in it?
We'll pull it